The glass door hadn't even finished swinging closed behind me when the man in the tailored suit raised an eyebrow and smirked. I felt it before he said anything. Judgment thick in the air, slicing through the false friendliness of the luxury car dealership. Chrome and leather everywhere, polished floors so clean they practically sparkled, but none of it could mask the sneer coming from the man who had just clocked me from head to toe. "Can I help you?" His tone was syrupy sweet, but underneath it was a quiet laugh, like I was a joke. I looked around, stunned by how quickly the atmosphere turned hostile. My old sneakers squeaked slightly on the tile as I walked toward a sleek, pearl-white convertible. Yes, I wanted to take a look at this one. I pointed calmly, pretending not to notice the way his eyes immediately dropped to my worn jeans and faded cardigan. The man, his name tag said Aaron, let out a soft, condescending chuckle. "That's the limited edition Phantom Drophead. It's not cheap." I raised an eyebrow. I didn't ask for the price. I asked to look at it. A beat of silence. Another chuckle. "I understand, ma'am. It's just we don't allow casual browsing for this model unless the client has an appointment or pre-approved financing." His smile widened like he thought he was being polite, helpful even. He wasn't. I could feel the humiliation rising at my throat, but I forced myself to breathe. Slow. Controlled. I was used to this. Being underestimated. Being dismissed. The world rarely looked kindly on women who didn't fit into neat, polished boxes. Especially women like me, soft-spoken, dressed plainly, hair tied in a loose bun because I hadn't had time for anything else. "You can't judge a buyer by their clothes," I said calmly. Aaron leaned in slightly. "That may be true at the mall. But here, we deal with serious clients." He turned away before I could say another word. That's when I heard the laughter. Behind me, a younger salesman whispering something to his colleague, who then burst out laughing. I didn't catch the words, but I didn't need to. I stood there frozen for a second, unsure what was worse, the embarrassment burning my skin or the realization that I was still standing there, letting it happen. Aaron gestured toward the door. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave, ma'am. We can't allow loitering." That word, loitering. As if I was a stray dog who wandered in from the street. I stared at him, my lips parted in shock, searching for something, anything, to say. But my throat felt like it had closed up. I turned and walked out, heart pounding. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I wasn't just anyone. And tomorrow, they were going to find out exactly who I was. I didn't cry when I walked out. Not then. I waited until I was back inside the car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The old Honda I was driving wheezed when I started it, the engine coughing like it hated me. The seatbelt buckle was cracked. The AC hadn't worked in months. And yet somehow, sitting there, I started to laugh. Not because it was funny, because it was insane how quickly people formed opinions based on how you looked, how you dressed, what you drove. I had lived through worse, of course. People like Aaron thought the world revolved around appearances. Shiny shoes. Big wallets. Perfect posture. But I'd learned something far more valuable. How to keep moving when life kicked you in the teeth. I used to be just like them. Or close to it. Until everything fell apart. Until he came into my life. And everything changed. It was almost midnight when I got home. The lights inside the apartment were low, but he was still awake, curled up on the sofa with a book resting on his chest, half asleep. He looked up as I closed the door behind me. "Hey," he said softly, voice thick with sleep. "You okay?" My husband, Marcus. The man no one at that dealership would ever expect me to be married to. 6'3", impossibly handsome, with a jawline that looked like it was carved out of stone and a quiet, dangerous calm about him. He wasn't flashy. Didn't show off. You'd never guess just by looking at him that he owned half the city. That was how he liked it. He never needed to prove anything. Unlike Aaron and his crew of suited jokers. I walked over and sat next to him. He looked at me more closely now, frowning slightly. Something happened. I nodded. I told him everything. The dealership. The laughter. The way they looked at me like I was dirt under their shoes. Marcus didn't say a word at first. He just listened, absorbed every word. Then he stood up slowly, crossed to the window, and looked out. When he finally turned around, his voice was quiet.
Calm.
Do you want to go back there tomorrow? I blinked. What? Do you want to go back to that dealership tomorrow? He repeated, eyes locked on mine. I didn't say yes. I didn't have to. The slight smile that tugged at his lips was all the answer I needed. Morning sunlight poured through the window as I slipped on the dress Marcus had picked out. He'd laid it on the bed that morning. Elegant. Timeless. Black silk with subtle pearl buttons and a slit just high enough to feel powerful. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The same one who'd been laughed out of a dealership less than 24 hours ago. Marcus stepped beside me, adjusting the cufflinks on his crisp white shirt. You don't have to say anything when we get there, he said. Just walk in. I nodded slowly. And what are you going to do? His eyes glinted. Remind them who holds the keys. The engine purred like a beast kept on a velvet leash. Heads turned before we even parked. That unmistakable silver hood ornament, the spirit of ecstasy, caught the sunlight like fire. Marcus pulled the Rolls-Royce Phantom up to the front of the dealership in a perfect, almost cinematic slow roll. A valet rushed forward like we were royalty, but Marcus didn't even acknowledge him. He stepped out, calm, collected, radiating quiet power. Then he opened my door. The same glass doors that had been slammed in my face yesterday parted for me this time, like I was walking on air. Inside, silence. Aaron froze mid-sentence, his phone still at his ear. His jaw slackened when he saw Marcus. And then he saw me. His eyes twitched. Recognition. Confusion. Fear? He was processing 1,000 questions at once, but said nothing. I smiled politely. Morning. You remember me? His face flushed, but he forced a laugh. Yes, of course, ma'am. We had a small misunderstanding yesterday. I nodded. No, you didn't misunderstand. You made yourself very clear. Marcus stepped forward.
Calm.
Controlled. I believe you humiliated my wife yesterday. Aaron's throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. No, sir. That's not what happened. Marcus held up one hand. You work on commission? Aaron nodded, beads of sweat forming. Good, Marcus said. Because I'll be buying 3 vehicles today. One for me, one for her, and one for the woman cleaning the windows outside. Aaron blinked. The window cleaner? Marcus turned to look through the glass. A middle-aged woman was scrubbing the dealership's exterior, headphones in, unaware of what was happening inside. She works harder than you do, Marcus said flatly. She deserves better. Aaron was speechless. His face had turned almost purple now. Other employees stood frozen behind desks, pretending to be busy while clearly watching every second unfold. I didn't expect an apology. People like Aaron didn't know how. They only understood money.
Power.
Public embarrassment. Marcus let the silence simmer for a few seconds before snapping his fingers once. A younger associate in a crisp blue suit rushed forward, practically tripping over himself to help. Please, right this way, sir, he stammered. Ma'am, we have our premium lounge available. Would you like sparkling water? Coffee? Something chilled. I smiled at him kindly. No thanks. I'm just here to look. He nodded nervously. Aaron slunk backward, trying to disappear into the showroom shadows. But Marcus turned to him one last time. You should treat every woman who walks through those doors like she owns the building. Because one day, she just might. Before we left, Marcus walked straight up to the window cleaner. She looked startled, pulling out her earbuds as he approached. Excuse me, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. Could I ask your name? Lita, she said, confused. Hi, Lita. You're doing amazing work, he said. Come inside when you're done. I want you to pick any car in that lot. It's yours. She blinked. What? I'm serious, Marcus said. I was poor once too. Someone gave me a chance. I'm just passing it forward. Lita looked like she might cry. Her lips trembled. She couldn't find the words. You deserve more than scrubbing windows for people who don't see you, I said softly. She nodded once, stunned. Thank you. Back in the rolls, I sat in silence, heart still racing. The power of it all didn't hit me until I saw the dealership shrinking in the rearview mirror. Marcus reached over and held my hand. "I don't care how the world sees you," he said. "I care how you see yourself." I looked at him. I've never felt this scene. His voice dropped lower, more intense. "And you've never seen what you're truly capable of. But they will." What we didn't expect. A customer inside the dealership had filmed the whole thing. By the next morning, it was everywhere. Woman kicked out of dealership returns with billionaire husband. Salesman refuses to sell her a car. She comes back and buys 3. Comment sections exploded with support. Messages poured in from women around the country. My inbox was flooded. And Aaron? Fired. Publicly. The dealership issued a formal apology on social media, but it was too late. The damage was done. But for me, the healing had just begun. That evening, I stood in front of the same mirror. Same face. Same quiet smile. But everything had changed. Because for the first time in years, I saw strength. Not just in Marcus, but in me. And tomorrow, I wouldn't need a Rolls-Royce to make them listen. 2 days after the video went viral, I got a call from a luxury lifestyle magazine. "We saw the video," the editor said breathlessly. "We'd love to feature you for our Women of Power issue." I froze. "I'm not." I started, but she cut me off. "You are. You're the woman who walked back into that dealership and didn't even have to raise your voice. You made a point without saying a word." I hung up in a daze. For years, I had been invisible. Dismissed. Talked over. Told I was too quiet, too soft, too boring. Now the world saw something else. And it terrified me. Because if they were finally seeing me, who was I, really? Marcus took me out that night. Not to a flashy restaurant, but to a quiet corner table at the Italian place we used to go to when money was tight and time was tighter.
He poured wine.
I stared at my plate. He reached over and touched my hand gently. "You don't owe anyone an explanation." I looked at him, finally letting the question spill out. "Do you ever feel like maybe people only respect me now because they saw you?" His face hardened. "Is that what you believe?" "I don't know," I admitted. "It's what it feels like." He leaned in, voice low and sure. "No one cared when I was broke. They didn't cheer when I started from scratch. But you did. You believed in me. You stayed when I had nothing. So when they see you now, that's not my respect they're seeing. It's yours. Earned, not gifted." The next morning, I walked into our building and saw someone sitting in the lobby, nervously wringing her hands. She stood as I passed. "Excuse me, are you her?" I turned, startled. "Sorry. The woman from the video." I hesitated. "I guess so." She smiled nervously. "I just wanted to say thank you. I left my abusive ex 2 months ago. I've been scared every day since. But when I saw you walk back into that place like that, it gave me something I thought I lost." Her voice cracked. "Hope." I hugged her without thinking. No words. Just 2 strangers holding the pieces of their broken pasts together for one moment. Later that week, Marcus invited me to a board meeting. He wanted me to sit in, observe, learn, contribute. His CFO, a polished man in his 50s, laughed when I walked in. "Oh, she's not just here for coffee?" Marcus didn't blink. "She's here to learn how to run the company." The CFO laughed again. "That's a joke, right?" Marcus turned to him calmly. "You're fired." Silence. "What?" the man gasped. "I don't do business with people who can't respect my wife," Marcus said coldly. "Pack your things." The man stood, stammering, rage flushing his face. But Marcus turned back to the room like nothing had happened. That night, I asked Marcus why he didn't yell. Why he didn't humiliate the CFO like I was humiliated in that dealership. He smiled faintly. Because power isn't loud. Real power doesn't scream. It whispers, and people still listen. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a note, scrawled in messy handwriting. "I saw what you did. I saw who you've become. I'm sorry I never believed in you." There was no name, but I recognized the writing. My mother. We hadn't spoken in years. She told me once that I'd never be more than a secretary, that dreaming beyond a paycheck was pointless. I sat on the edge of the bed, the letter in my lap, and I wept, not out of grief but relief. Because even if she never said it aloud, she saw me now. The dealership where everything began? 3 weeks after the incident, it shut down. Turns out, Marcus had been quietly buying up their debts for months. The video had only accelerated the downfall. He never gloated, never rubbed it in. He just handed me a folded document one morning and said, "If you wanted to reopen it as a women-led auto group, now's your chance." I laughed through tears. "Are you serious?" He just smiled. "I've never been more serious." 6 months later, I stood in front of the same building. But the sign had changed. Clara Motors, a place for everyone. Women in suits, women in sneakers, teen girls, working moms, mechanics, engineers, sales reps. Everyone was welcome. Everyone was respected. Aaron, the former salesman?
He applied for a job.
I didn't hire him, not out of revenge, but because I needed my team to be better. When the magazine finally came out, there I was on the cover. Not in designer clothes. Not in heels. Just me. Comfortable. Confident. The headline? She was kicked out. Now she owns the place. And underneath? The quiet power of knowing who you are. I walked back into that dealership one last time before we demolished the building to rebuild. Same tile floor. Same glass door. I stood where I had once been humiliated. Then I turned to the architect beside me. "I want open spaces. No doors between customers and staff. No pressure. No posturing." She nodded, jotting notes. "Anything else?" she asked. "Yes," I said. "I want every woman who walks in here to feel like she belongs. Not because she's with someone powerful, but because she is." The dealership had only been open a week when she walked in, barely 18, backpack slung over one shoulder, shoes worn thin. She didn't ask about cars. She asked if we were hiring. I looked at her resume, blank, except for a single line. Passionate about cars. Fast learner. Her name was Noelle. Her hands were shaking. "Everyone says I don't look like I belong in this industry," she said quietly. I smiled. "That's exactly why you do." She cried when I handed her the uniform. Sometimes, all it takes is one person saying yes. My phone buzzed during a meeting. Mom calling. I stared at the screen for a long time. My team was mid-presentation, but they all paused when they saw my face. I answered, stepping into the hallway. Her voice was quiet. "I saw the cover," she said. "And the video. I know. I was wrong. About everything. About you." I said nothing. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. I didn't offer forgiveness. Not yet. But I said, "Thank you." And somehow it was enough for now. One rainy afternoon, a single mom with 2 kids came in. She looked overwhelmed, clutching a notebook with calculations scribbled all over it. "I know I can't afford much," she said. "But my job's across town. I just need something that runs." She expected the usual, dismissive looks, pity, maybe even mockery. Instead, Noelle brought her coffee. One of her mechanics inspected her car for free. By the end of the day, she left with a reliable vehicle, fully financed by a quiet donation I never signed. She didn't need to know it was for me. Kindness doesn't always need credit. I was giving a speech at a women's leadership conference. The audience clapped. Cameras flashed. Journalists scribbled. But when I looked out over the crowd, my eyes found only one person, leaning against the back wall in a gray suit. Marcus. Silent. Smiling. Afterward, I asked, "Why didn't you sit up front?" He shrugged. "Because you didn't need me up there." My throat tightened. "But I want you there." He took my hand. "I'll always be behind you. Right where you put me." A reporter once asked me, "Why didn't you fight back at the dealership? Why didn't you shout?" I thought about it for a moment. Because I've shouted before. I've cried. I've begged. And none of it worked. So, what made this time different? I smiled. I stopped asking for permission. 6 months later, Aaron sent a letter. No return address. Just a handwritten note. I deserved what happened. I've been volunteering at a shelter since. I didn't understand how I made people feel until I became one of them. He didn't ask for his job back. He just said, "I'm sorry." I didn't respond, but I hoped he meant it. Demand exploded. More women wanted to work for us. More clients came in every day. We opened 2 new locations within a year. But it wasn't just about business anymore. It was about rewriting a system built to exclude people like me. And I made sure every brick we laid screamed the opposite. It was surreal. She walked in, head held high, designer purse slung over her shoulder, pretending not to recognize me. When she realized I owned the place, her smile faltered. She tried to act impressed. "You always were the quiet one," she said. "Guess you finally found your moment." I nodded.
No.
I made it. She didn't buy a car. She left in silence. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming everything they said you couldn't. One day, I found a note in my desk drawer. It was from Marcus. "I never told you this," it read, "but the day you walked into that dealership, I was watching from the parking lot. I knew you wouldn't ask for help, but I needed to make sure you were okay. And when I saw how they treated you, I didn't just feel angry. I felt ashamed. That I let the world forget how powerful you are. Never again." It ended with one line. "You don't need a Rolls Royce. The world should roll out carpets for you." I woke up one morning and looked at myself in the mirror. Same eyes, same skin, same woman. But I was no longer quiet, no longer overlooked, no longer uncertain of my worth. I wasn't just a woman who married a powerful man. I was a woman who became one. And the next time someone tells me I don't belong somewhere, I won't walk away. I'll smile. And I'll buy the whole building.